All right. Wow. Full house. Good morning, everyone. All right. This should be a fun one. We are titling this How Security Fits into a Smart Building Ecosystem. But really, what we want to talk about is I think we've got some best of breed companies here, selfishly speaking for myself, who all bring something unique and different to the table in the smart building world. So we've got representation from HID, from Smart Spaces, from Genetech, and from Axis. And as each, I'm going to do this panel a little differently. I'm going to call on each one of these guys to answer different questions. I'll have them introduce themselves as I call on them the first time to answer each question. And we're going to just see where this goes. This is not overly scripted. We're going to leave some time for Q&A in the audience here. If you guys have questions, I encourage you to ask them. And we're going to really talk about what makes a building truly smart. And also, how do we move people efficiently through large spaces? That's a big part of what we're going to talk about today. So first place I want to start is, I guess, asking, how do we define a smart building? What does a smart building actually mean? And I'm going to ask that first to Dan.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for those that are attending that I didn't bribe to come in here. So it's a good start. So I'm Dan. I'm the CEO of Smart Spaces, a company I founded 14 years ago with my brother, Tom. Really proud to be here today. We're a smart building operating system deployed across 90 million square feet globally. And hopefully this panel will sort of highlight what a smart building operating system actually is for those that don't know. But a smart building to me is a building that continually improves itself. So it gets better and better over time. And the only way you do that is by studying the data and have a feedback loop of how customers are using your building. And by taking that data, reacting to that data and continuously improving the asset, it gets more sticky. People use it, you get longer lease lengths, but you can also look at their patterns of usage and actually look where you can make savings and optimize the building from an energy and a cost perspective. So that's what a smart building is to me.
Okay. Viet, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name's Viet Tang. I'm an account executive at Genetech. Been in the security industry, surprisingly, I look young, for about 24 years. Okay, so not aged too much, I don't think. So what do I class as a smart building? It's definitely technology driven. Okay, a smart building is technology driven. It's using technology to help aid and move people around, help operate the building, but not having technology there for the sake of it's just technology. One which flies off my head. It's not worth having a robot in reception walking around spraying people in the face with water for no reason, just because it's a robot and it looks cool. I don't think that's a smart building. Whereas if it's a robot helping visitors, helping them guide around, that adds an element to that smart building aspect and that introduction to the building. At the same time, I don't class a smart building as lots of silo technologies. Okay, having individual technologies doing their individual things without speaking to each other. Okay, so creating a smarter building, having technologies talk to one another, work with each other. Okay, I like using the word dumb, sometimes a dumb building. Okay, but also a less dumb. What I mean by dumb building is an analog. You know, you still got your mechanical locks. Okay, there's good technology out there to help keep those doors open, help get data. What you mentioned, Dan, get data from the doors. Okay, a dumb building doesn't have that. You've got mechanical locks. You've also got a less dumb building where you've still got an electronic aspect, a technology aspect to that door. However, all it's doing is just opening and closing digitally. That's a less of a dumb building, but still a dumb building. A very smart building is, as I said, you interface the door information, the visitor information, all gathering data, providing it to the landlords, providing it to the tenants. Add that to your BMS, add that to your IoT. That's what I think you start bridging all of the technology together to create a smarter building for better usage.
Okay, hang on there for a second, because I'm going to call on you one more time. So I think we've defined what the building is. Let's enter the building now. As we're inside the building, as manufacturers, who are we speaking to? Who are we selling our products to? Who, I have to assume it's a different breed than outside the Proptech commercial real estate industry. Who are the buyers and what are their motivations?
I'm going to take you a little bit back to when I first started in the security industry. the stakeholders, it used to be very, very easy. Genetech has come from a security background. So engaging with buildings at the time used to be quite easy. You'd either speak to the security manager, security guard, maybe purchasing. There used to be three. As long as the CCTV aspect fulfilled the security guard's requirement of, I want to be able to view a camera, I want to be able to rewind a camera, that ticked a box. That was easy. Once they saw you could do that, it was a tick. Fast forward, as Genetech's platform capabilities have expanded over the number of years, the conversation's got bigger, and there's more and more stakeholders now. It's still security, it's still security guards, okay, and security operators, but now, because it's more of an IT platform, we got to start speaking about IT now, okay, and then we start adding the access control capabilities to it. We got to start speaking to HR. We've got to start speaking to the individual tenants, how they want to use the access control system, okay? Then you start speaking to secure procurement. You start speaking to the BMS controllers because they want to interface more BMS into the platform. You want to start speaking to the operations, HR. All of a sudden, there's 5 or 6 different people we're talking to just there. And the icing on the cake, right when you tick everyone's boxes, everyone's happy, everyone's ready to sign that bit of paper, the cybersecurity team come in and go, right, give us all the information about all these cyber essentials and cyber credentials you have. Where's the ports? What ports you're communicating with the HR system? So all of a sudden, the conversation used to go from a month conversation down to all the way up to 6 months, a year conversation. Okay, and then you speak to procurement, and then they say, right, does it fit into our budgets? It's challenging, but at the same time, it's making sure you engage everyone and making sure everyone is satisfied with what they're investing in. Once you have everyone's buy-in, and once you answer everyone's questions, as painful as it is sometimes, that's where you start getting a really good traction. That's when you start seeing them come on board. I'm going to point out someone as well, Glenn. It's also having a visionary within that organization as well to help drive it. Okay, so all these individual stakeholders are great. Find the visionary, find the person who understands how they want the system to be in the future.
Okay, David, same question to you from the HID perspective. Are we encountering the same buyers? Are we encountering the same motivations that the video side of the house is?
Yeah, definitely. So just to introduce myself, so Dave Vigor from HID. So I look after business development for HID across Europe. So completely agree. In terms of those stakeholders, it's changed massively. So we always used to deal with a lot of the physical security people directly within the business, and those stakeholders have evolved over time. But it's also because you've got all these various data inputs, and you've got all these number of people. You've also got a number of partners with very specialized approaches to these customers. It becomes very complex. So if you deal with the art of the possible and expand the potential opportunity out to what it could be, then you're dealing with a huge beast of an animal. So yes, we're dealing with all these multiple players, but you also need to have a plan to sort of take some of these stakeholders through. So, how do you focus on who the people are, where the strength is within an organization? Who are the influencers? Yes, absolutely, as Veet said. But also, how do you navigate that business, both from a budgetary perspective, but also from a value proposition as well? Because every business is different. Every business will either have operational efficiencies for the data, but they'll also have strategic reasons as well why things could be important. So trying to work out who those people are and how you navigate that company over time is really key.
Okay, David, I'm going to stick with you for a minute here. Slightly changing topics. Physical security. Is it a motivating factor? Is it a driver for innovation and change inside these buildings? Is physical security an area where the smart buildings are investing right now? And if so, maybe speak a little bit about why. Because historically, our industry has always found that end users invest money last in physical security. It's the last thing on their mind. But I think we're seeing a change in the industry right now.
Yeah, true. So previously you'd have security budgets and you'd have security products that you'd sell, but obviously as that evolves, you have ESG requirements, you have as you become more strategically important, you're going to encounter other budgets that are making that slightly easier for a business to be able to justify going with security propositions wrapped into other solutions that companies like Smart Spaces and others will develop. But it's also, you know, how do you then drive that proposition through and make it evolve over time? So having a phased approach is important as well as that.
Okay, Jeff, I'm curious your thoughts as well.
Hi. So Jeff Pelfreyman, Access Communications. Unfortunately, I haven't got anyone that can translate. So I'm from the northeast of England. So I hope you can bear with me a little bit. So for me, really, I look at smart buildings and I look at that word smart. Like, what does it mean? What does it mean to each and every person in this room? And my personal take on it is it's about data. It's about data that we collect and what we do with that data. So I can walk into what is deemed a smart building and I could pick 1,000 ways to make it smarter. But does the budget warrant that? And does it need to be that way? So having a look at the data and working out what we do with that data is how we define what is smart to us, to the end user. So in sort of combining technology. So we, you know, a camera is a sensor as far as we're concerned. So it can pick up, it can use analytics, it can give you storybooks worth of data. But if you choose to do nothing with that data, how smart is that? It's just a camera. But if you use that data to then say, look at occupancy, control air conditioning, things like that, that's where you start to level up that. So it's all about using the data you've got from all of your devices, from your access control right through to, you know, your smartphone in your pocket if needs be, and combining that where possible to create what is for the end user a smart building.
I like where you took that. So I'm actually going to switch the order up. Dan, I'm going to call on you next here and talk about data. Obviously, your platform is all about taking data from multiple systems, disparate systems, and bringing it into a single pane of glass. Talk a little bit about your strategy, your approach there, and what's been successful for you.
Yeah, certainly. The strategy is all about the end user of the building. So a landlord makes a huge investment into real estate and needs people to come and use it, and especially post-COVID. And so what we do is actually measure every aspect of how a user uses the building. How often do they use the cycle facility? How often do they order a coffee on the app? What are their patterns of work? When do they book a desk? But also overlay the energy consumption with that as well. So when they're not using the space, they're not wasting energy. And it even comes down to things like catering and understanding how much food to provision for as well. It also comes back to also the savings in hardware. And I remember me and Shaq, a great colleague of ours, well, great client of ours at GP, more like a colleague, it's been so long. And we were going around 240 Blackfriars and we were looking at the ceiling and all the different features, and we were just building smart spaces at the time. And we said, oh, that PIR there, is that connected to your BMS to switch the HVAC on and off? And they went, no, of course it's not. That's the Simtronic system that sits over there. This is the Delta system this side. And we were like, well, there's a great opportunity there straight away. But what we really liked, that the smartphone had already reached mass adoption, so we could actually connect that back to the end user and the real patterns, because, you know, you might be able to switch a space on and off based when someone enters the space, but in the height of winter or summer, they're going to be freezing because it's going to take so long for that set point to reach the appropriate rate. And then you're going to get a load of support tickets on our app of people whinging about their hot or cold. And I think one of the problems we were trying to save back then was the amount of calls down to the BMS office. In winter and summer, they would get 1 million set point changes an hour, which is a human going to an FCU, clicking on it and adjusting the temperature, which is, you know, really inefficient. Actually, a lot of the time, the person on reception might say, yeah, no, we've changed it, but they haven't. And then they get a complaint 10 minutes later, or they forget to change it. Yeah. By connecting that back to the user, but then monitoring it. And sometimes that meant that you'd go back to the engineers that designed the building and say, well, to be honest with you, we've set this at 21 all week and it's not got to 21 Celsius once. So there's obviously a flaw in the design. We need to bring engineers in to look at how we can improve the space. So I think from my perspective, the most valuable data is the user data, but it has to be 360 and you have to collect it and you have to improve and react to it.
Okay. Excellent. I'm going to use this as a quick shameless plug for what Dan has put together here with this Smart Building Pavilion. If you haven't yet, I would encourage all of you afterwards to take a walk around and talk to all the different manufacturers here, because I think one thing Smart Spaces has done a wonderful job is bringing companies that all have a different play and take different bits of data in the building and feed it into them at the end of the day. And there's some really unique companies out here that you all should have conversations with. Swinging back to the topic, Viet, I want to get your take again, talking about structuring data, single pane of glass. I know Genetech has a word for this that you like to use. Talk a little bit about how you unify all of this together.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this bit of a shameless plug as well. So I'm going to be doing a presentation tomorrow on this stage at 1 p.m. tomorrow. So please join us, and I actually cover this subject in a lot more depth. Yeah, single pane of glass. We hear it quite a lot within the industry. Coming from the security industry, moving into the building industry. That's almost that end goal which everyone wants. I'm going to break this down. Single pane of glass into half. You've got two panes of glass. You've got an integration pane of glass where you've got lots of different technologies all integrating to create one end user's pane of glass. Okay, so you've got the HVAC, your access control, you've got lift systems. They're all integrated into one single platform. Okay, absolutely. As the end user, as the operator, it looks like it is one single system. But when you start digging a bit deeper, okay, the administration side of things, you need to go somewhere else. Okay, separate access control system. Yeah, you get the notifications into that front pane of glass, but you've got to go into a separate system to administrate your card holders, add different credentials, add different rules. Okay, so that's my take of that single pane of glass is an integrated approach.
Okay.
Sorry, Matt. The unified approach, which we at Genetech do, is we have lots of facets within our technology where we can actually have the access control, CCTV, ANPR, into, as well as intercoms, into one single platform. Okay, this is from an operator's perspective as well as an administrator's perspective. What this offers anyone using the system is one pane of glass. Anyone administrating the system, one pane of glass. Anyone running reports on it, those various facets, one pane of glass. That's true unification. That's true single pane of glass. At the same time, you still need a platform to be able to have plugins with the best of breed out in the technology as well. So, having a platform which can both integrate, say, with the smart spaces, HID access technology, as well as be able to drive its own technology as well. That's true unification. That's a true single pane of glass, I see.
Perfect. I want to stick with you for a second, Viet. Talk about something entirely different, but I think equally as important, especially in the world that we live in now. There's so much data that we have. There's so many entry points into networks. There's so many devices on the network. Talk a little bit about what Genetech's doing, and then Jeff, I'm going to get your perspective afterwards as well around what Axis is doing, or anybody else up here around cybersecurity. How are you hardening your products? How are you ensuring that you are providing safe products to your end users?
Absolutely. So within, again, it sounds like I'm plugging Genetech, but I work for Genetech, so I am. So within Genetech is a mantra, true mantra within Genetech, that anything we do is secure by design. Okay, a number of ways, whether that's secure through the software, through testing, through cybersecurity, penetration testing, so on and so forth. It's a big belief with ours, with a core platform, because otherwise, if we're not doing that, we're not doing our job right, because this is going into not only buildings, this is going into government installations, this is going around the world. Okay, this has cloud aspects to it as well. So we need to make sure whatever we do, we're doing it right for us, right for our customers. Because if it's not cyber secure, it's not a great product. Secondly, on that is because we have talked a lot about integrating different technologies. We need to make sure that all the platforms within the ecosystem which we're working with is as secure as they can be. So within Genetech, we make sure the partners like Axis, we make sure their products and their platforms are working. We make sure that our system can stay up to date. One of the things which we have is very similar to Microsoft updates, is the ability to automatically roll updates throughout our platform on a schedule. And then I know there's a lot of IT people going out there going, well, it's connected to the internet, so on and so forth. The risk is greater if you don't connect your systems and don't keep them updated. There was an instance in the US, North America, one of the retailers, a Genetech retailer, and I'll come and explain. They were actually hit by a cyber issue. Okay, someone hacked into the HVAC system and took down their whole network. Okay, huge. They lost hundreds of millions, let alone reputational damage. Genetech was in there. Genetech was the only platform which stood up. A, because it's updated. B, the hardware is pre-cyber hardened. Okay, so just think about that. And also, when we look at buildings now, they're little cities, right? Imagine if a council system got hacked, all the traffic lights, all the flow and everything got hacked. Okay, we're running mini cities here, so we should be thinking more about just having siloed technologies running independently off the network, running on Windows. Hope not 95. We should be keeping them up to date.
Okay, and I'm going to leave this open to anybody who wants to chime in on cybersecurity here.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that one. So from an access perspective, we've got, in terms of the hardware we do, we have firmware tracks. So without going massively technical, there are options to retain functionality and how to have an integration into a piece of software, but without crazy changes so that all of a sudden the device is no longer functional. So we run that as a safe, secure firmware track, and then we'll have firmware tracks that support the newest, latest and greatest analytics and so on and so forth. So honestly speaking, let's take this back a little bit. Let's take this off the devices. Cybersecurity is in the people as well. So we, as a big manufacturer, we all are responsible for, taking every step humanly possible to be secure. And, it can come down to, if you get spotted walking away from your desk, leave your laptop open, that's as big a risk as hacking a device. So it really is top to bottom throughout. I think, on top of that, really, it's just, like I say, the main sort of fundamental thing for me is the cybersecurity from where we were into where we are. I'm talking, I've been with Access 3 years, is transformed. I mean, really genuinely transformed. So to take a look back to, going back when I started the industry 15 years ago, it wasn't a conversation. Now it's a decision why you may lose or win a tender, is how cybersecure are you and how cybersecure are the partners and the products that you use. So that's
okay. I want to get Dan your take on that one too.
Brilliant. So I think we're quite fortunate at Smart Spaces that we don't manufacture hardware. So firmware is not so much a problem for us, but we're a cloud-based system and we patch in real time. So as soon as we have any kind of update when it's required, it'll be rolled out across our entire portfolio instantly. But I think one thing that people don't speak about with Smart is actually it highlights the security vulnerabilities. When we integrate our app into a building, we see which network ports are open, which networks aren't secured. And we've had some hideous stories where one of our clients' buildings had a flat network where they had the CCTV, the BMS, the access control, all on the same network. Now, what device sits outside the building? The CCTV. I could go over to that camera, unplug the Cat5 cable, plug it into my laptop, turn all the chillers off. I could even send you up and down the lift or lock you in the lift. And so, before we went live, we literally went over to the client and said, look, this is not great. We've got some very good partners on our stand who can help you with this. Obviously, a big shout out to Ideal Networks who specialize in this. And we work on many a project alongside GP as well with Hanover Square. And we will have MAC address filtering on that network. No device is getting plugged into that network. Everything's segregated on its own VLANs. But we are monitoring it. And if there is an unusual pattern and we see something that's not right, out of hours, we'll notify you. And I think one of the best evolutions, and obviously coming back to the great work Glenn does at 22 Bishopsgate, is moving that to the security team. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a cyber event. It can also be a chillers down. Because your security team work 24/7, they are the best people to receive and act on the alarms.
Okay. So we talked about cybersecurity. Let's talk about another huge trend in the industry. And I want to start with you, Dan. Talk a little bit about the journey to green, sustainability, what that looks like, and how technology can help be a driver for that.
Yeah, certainly. I think if you look at the buildings our software is rolled out on, they are like the alpha class assets. They do scale up and scale down. I think, again, keep mentioning our clients in the crowd best because they're here today. We've got some really small assets, haven't we? Like the Wall Yard, which has a similar level to a building to 22 Bishopsgate in terms of the feel and the quality. Doesn't have the wealth of amenity because it's not as big. So there's a level in that level of quality. And I think that's the key. And if you invest in the technology, that's adding to that quality feel. You don't need a plastic card to access it. You know that your building is sustainable and ethical because it doesn't use energy when you're not there. And what we've seen in leasing recently, the buildings that have invested in huge screens in reception and showcase all the smart tech, because the problem with a lot of the smart tech from Genetec, from Axis, even the sensors from XY Sense, they're in the ceiling. No one knows what they are. No one knows what they do. And if you come over to our digital twin, you'll see the data we extract from that. We're showcasing that in the reception of the buildings. And the feedback we're getting from the leasing teams is that when the law firm come in to see it, that's all they talked about, because they said, look, we're trying to attract the Gen Alpha lawyers in the future. They really care about this, and we need to showcase that we're doing as much as we can. We don't work we're not a sustainable organization in the fact that we are a company that saves energy for people in a law firm perspective. But if we're showing as a law firm we're doing everything we can, that's all we can do. And the app is great for that, because you showcase the sustainability program and how much energy you're using on the app, but also in the reception dashboards. And you buy the best quality marble. You also need to buy the best quality tech to lease a space in these current times.
Okay, amazing. David, give us HID's take on sustainability a little bit, because obviously, selfishly, that's something that we really believe in at HID, is making sure that we are responsible and good stewards with the technology that we're putting on. Talk a little bit about our take on sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly it becomes very much a much more important topic, as you said, especially from Gen Alpha, Gen Z. We're certainly seeing it from our business that we need to change and adapt. We're evolving more into sustainable technology like bamboo cards. We're moving away from plastics, but also trying to reuse mobile for access as well. So we know that from a contactless payment perspective, that has taken over as a predominant force within society, and access needs to catch up with that and needs to be as prevalent as contactless payment within that space. So everyone's already got a phone within their hand, so why aren't we reusing that technology over and over again, sweating the asset and making sure that works? Everything still needs to be secure, locked down as it would be, and if not more secure through mobile. So not only does it tick the security box, but it also enables us to be more environmentally conscious, but also enabling us to speed up a lot of our propositions and go to market as well. So rather than actually a lot of our platforms requiring reuse of plastics to be thrown away, taken with people when they leave organizations, it can be reused over and over again. So it's certainly something that we'll continue to focus on and evolve as we develop our propositions.
Okay, and one more, Jeff. I want to get your take on the sustainability aspect, because I watch Access from afar, and I see the efforts that you guys are doing to not only make sure that your products are sustainable, but you're educating the industry on the value and the benefits of being good stewards. Talk a little bit about Access's approach to this.
Sure. So again, it's I like you described it as a sustainability journey. And that is exactly where we are. So every facet of Access has its own sustainability story. So may it be packaging, let's take something really obvious. We're trying to take all the ink, all the print off the packaging and have really recyclable packaging. Quite an easy one. We're trying to offset travel of people with planting trees, things like that. But also we're taking out the plastics out of cameras. We're really strimming down any. At the end of the day, we're a hardware manufacturer. We have to put a piece of hardware out. So our commitment is about the life cycle of the hardware. So can we keep that hardware in use as long as humanly possible? And then what do we do at the end of that? And to be honest, it's an ongoing, like, we don't have a full answer at the moment. Our commitment is, I think, one of the best, if not the best, in the sort of camera industry, certainly. But where we are, it's that the life cycle of the product and the life management of the product. So when that product is finished, does it just come down and go in the bin? And that's where we're trying to find out, getting better with the shape and the form of cameras. We're trying to get more variant in the same housing, so it's less produce more chance of recyclable. But it's a bigger story. It'll go on for years to come. But like I say, it's every single facet. We're always asking ourselves, how can we do this better?
I think one of the misconceptions, I mentioned those alpha class assets, but you can retrofit this. And I think that's where you get so much sustainability, because we've gone into buildings which have had open protocol BMSs for 10 years and a really good access control system like Genetec and HID readers with the Bluetooth module. And we've come back to the client and we say, we can get this to a similar level as 22 Bishopsgate's technology from a user perspective very, very quickly. It is a bit of a lottery. You go into a building, if the landlord's made bad decisions or the MEP consultant's made bad decisions, it'll be closed closed protocol. It will only work with one manufacturer. You won't be able to use mobile access. But there's many a building we've had great MEP consultants who have bought the right products, and you leapfrog all the other buildings and come back to a really relevant smart building straight away at minimal cost, pretty much just the cost for some licenses for Apple mobile credentials, our costs for the SaaS fees, and you've now got a smart building. So I think that's a really key thing, and I really like the fact that Access, HID take it so serious when it comes to manufacturing controllers with recycled plastics. And one last comment from me, I think from our business perspective, this is the year that it's finally tipped that mobile's the default. We are not getting... Is Matt in the crowd? Where's Matt hiding? Is Matt here? Oh, he's gone, is he? Damn. Matt's our commercial director, and there's not one quote we've done this year that's not got mobile access, and there's not one client that said, no, we don't want mobile access. It's finally, the death of the lanyard is coming. Some of the companies we work with don't want to give the lanyard up because they can identify you work for the business. So what they've got a lanyard and they've got the mobile access, and they've got the convenience of both. If they don't want to take their phone to the toilet, use the card on the lanyard. If they don't take their lanyard home with them, they've got their phone when they come back, especially when they forget their card. And so I think for HID, for Genetec, for Access is a very exciting year because the mindset has finally changed in 2024.
Okay, that's 2024. Let's end with something fun. I want everyone to rub their crystal ball and look at what the next 5 years looks like and talk about one or two trends in your industry. And I'm going to start out and I'm going to talk from HID's perspective here. As we look forward, I think there's two big problems that we are trying to solve at HID. One of them is a buzzword, is frictionless. How do we efficiently move people through large spaces, and how do we give them the best user experience possible? So I think we're just at the very beginning of that with wallet-based credentials. The next big emerging technology that we're embracing and that we're trying to champion and pioneer is something called ultra-wideband. I don't know how many people are familiar with ultra-wideband, but I'll bet you are and you don't even realize. If you have an AirTag from Apple, that's an ultra-wideband chip. If you have a new BMW, Hyundai, numerous different auto manufacturers, it supports ultra-wideband. Ultra-wideband is a protocol and a technology that allows fine ranging and intent detection. So the idea that we're going to eventually build is the Star Trek effect, where I can walk up to a door fully authenticated with my phone in my pocket. The phone communicates with the reader, exchanges my credentials securely, and then also unlocks the door. So I would not need to pull out even my phone or my wallet or any of my devices that I carry with us. We're a few years out from productizing ultra-wideband, but we think that's going to be incredibly impactful. And then the other big thing that we are trying to champion and pioneer at HID, and we're trying to move the physical security industry, is towards a standards-based approach. The word proprietary needs to no longer be part of our vernacular. We need to embrace open standards, and that's something that our industry has always shied away from. Everyone likes creating their own technologies. And I'm going to give a softball to Dan next because I know one of the challenges that companies like Smart Spaces have are integrating all these disparate systems together. So what HID is trying to do is evaluate what are the standards that exist, the emerging standards. Do we back those standards, or do we potentially create our own standards to allow ease of integration? So stay tuned. There's a lot of work that HID is doing and investment that we're making right now to help bring us towards a more standards-driven world. So I want to ask all of you guys, again, just pick one or two themes and just kind of look down the road. Dan, I'll just start with you and we'll go down the line.
Yeah, there's so much there. Picking one's quite difficult. I'd say, look, the best change we've seen in the industry today is the fact that our clients now are hiring chief digital officers, head of technology at board level who report to the CEO or even sit on the board. So that's really good for us because that means actually now finally the investment's being made into these technologies, and maybe they've even been investing in the technologies but not paid any attention to them. And when you've got the support of the board, you see things happen very quickly with deployments happen overnight and you're getting chased and it's brilliant and we're in a great place. So that's what I think needs to change culturally. I think you've got buildings like 22 Bishopsgate which have the best culture in terms of technology because they're just, what else can we do? How can we make things better every day? But they need to at that kind of scale. But then to be more specific, because I love ultra wideband and look, Smart Spaces, we've been selling the ability to access a lift without taking your phone out of your pocket or go through a turnstile for a long time. And we've slapped a lot of people in the lap of those turnstiles where we've miscalculated the directory that you're approaching the turnstile, and it's been quite an embarrassment. And I've had a few complaints from customers.
But to be clear, that's Bluetooth.
That's Bluetooth. Yes, that's exactly. Sorry, yeah, I need to clarify that. And so So, and we have got Bluetooth to work, but I've not made a profit on those jobs. We've had more support tickets. We've had more calibration meetings. It's a killer. Yeah. And so I think obviously Apple Wallet, Google Wallet, NFC, fantastic. But why are we taking our phone from our pocket? If you can accurately calculate that person's standing there and they're authenticated. And when we work for hedge funds and real high-end properties, these are like some of the private equity companies we work with in London. That is their dream. They don't want you to wear a lanyard. They don't want you to have to take your phone out of the pocket, but they need to know you're employed by that company and you haven't tailgated. And I think access technology, face recognition, Teams review, having a valid credential that's valid at that point in time. Your lifts can be your secure barrier in the building. You don't even need turnstiles. You approach that. If one person comes in, Access is going to detect that person hasn't got a credential. Your security team is going to politely say, "Sir, can I just see your credentials, please?" So, and that's the key. It's much more frictionless, as you said.
Yeah. All right, David, I might have stolen a little bit of the HID thunder, but give me your take. Rub your crystal ball.
Yeah, so as you said, frictionless access is going to become a key thing. So, as we see with Amazon, you walk out from a grocery store, it's nice user experience, but you need to marry that user experience with the security clearly as well. So, as you evolve, with a better UX and over time, clearly security is a constant through that. So our ability to communicate that and evolve that conversation will be key. I think also from a mobile perspective, that will continue to evolve. But we'll continue to see how we can develop and improve our proposition over that time. I think you've pretty much covered it.
Okay, Viet?
Yeah, so typically the security industry has been a little bit slow. Surprisingly, there's still companies out there which are using tapes, to look after their CCTV. So a big shift has been from tapes to hard drives, which has been really, really successful. But the big shift I see in the next 5 years in this magic ball is a big shift into utilizing the cloud a lot more. A lot more, pushing a lot more of the data in there, using all the cloud services in there. That's where I'm going to see a big shift with the data from video, because once you get that up there, you can start running all the clever analytics, how many people, what color jumpers there are, and what kind of vehicles there are. That's where we're going to start being big shift, more and more granular data. One other thing as well is the unification of systems, understanding and putting more and more systems in together to give them more and more data. That's big. I reckon, again, that's enough. Within the next 2 years, you'll see more and more connected systems out there, giving all different data. How we do that is what we're doing now, talking about it, educating, and everyone going into these kind of meetings, the meetings you have with manufacturers with an open mind. Just go in there with an open mind, ask what more can my system give me in the next 5 years beyond what I want it to do now. So that's where I think a big shift is in mindset as well.
Okay, Jeff, wrap it up. What's the future of video surveillance look like?
It's exciting, honestly. I think for me that there's a huge shift at the moment. So Axis are renowned for being an excellent security company. So let's keep that word security. All of a sudden, because of the emergence of AI and the interconnected technologies we see in IoT deployments, a lot of the devices themselves go into an environment that can't really be called security. So we see a lot of production line optimization, building statistics, but not necessarily security. So where we as a company need to go is that pendulum has to come down further in the middle to breach sort of beyond security applications. So to go into a more digital transformation sort of that field, if you like. I mean, it's a very, very wide field, let's be honest. But I think that, and if you look at the analytics that we can run on the edge of the camera and the ability to tap into the camera and write your own analytics, I think that will yield opportunities that we can't even dream up at this moment in time. So really exciting time, but nerve-wracking at the same time. I think AI can be really good, but we've got to do our bit responsibly to try and govern as much as possible how our devices are actually used, make sure they're not misused, and that's going to it'll bring its own challenges as well. But like I say, overall, really, really quite excited to see where we go with that. So, okay. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. I know we ran a little bit long. If there's any questions, Corey, I don't know if we have time for Q&A. 5 minutes. Does anyone have questions? Anything you'd like to ask us about? Not to put anyone on the spot.
I think a challenge, for pretty much all of you really, is the temporary credential visitor management. I know the credentials space is very much access control and here's your permanent pass, but really that secure visitor pass that can't be copied and can be issued freely is a challenge.
Are we allowed to say we're working on it or not? Yeah. So we're working on that right now. So we now have the facility to issue a temporary NFC credential. I think one of the challenges we need to overcome is that the problem that Google's not as evolved at the moment in terms of the visitor. So we can issue a temporary one for Apple now, but it's not so easy to do it for Google. One of the great things smart spaces can do, and we've been doing this for years with plastic cards before we even had mobile, is I can actually give you a permanent credential, then take it back again. The downside is actually the monetary side of that is that you're going to have to work out what your pool of credentials that are active at any one time is. And so say you had 20,000 visitors a week, you'd probably want to buy 25,000 credentials that I can tap into. And then we'll just reuse them and reissue them. So we can overcome the challenge now. And if you want to do it at Trade 2, I'll be well up for it because I think that would be a great case study. So I've got a contract printed out the back right now.
If you were to ask HID what our top 3 priorities are moving in the next year, NFC-based visitor credentials is in the number 1 or number 2 there. We are working directly with Apple, with Google, to make sure that the commercial models make sense for at scale. And I truly think that's the biggest problem. It's not a technical problem right now. It's a money problem right now.
Great question.
Any other questions, guys? Okay. I release you. Please come see us all here at the pavilion, and we'd love to chat more. Thank you all.
Thank you.